for just a few days. On an average week, we are getting 1,000 new visits a week, 1,000 a week. And that is from a business that has been on this new platform for less than a month. We're growing at 20% a week. And the number of inquiries are coming in through organic, LinkedIn, Google Ads, LinkedIn Ads. And I'm glad Dan's here because he's one of our sort of first protagonists as far as, you know, the motivational speaking, leadership speaking thing is. If you put motivational speaker into Google, you're one of 22,000 people a month who make that search term in the United States alone. And the response that often comes up are individual people who are marketing themselves, Tony Robbins style, or a bureau who might be in Austin, Dallas, New York, Denver, whatever. In each city, there are over 100 requests for motivational speaker in Texas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, on a monthly basis. So we've now got, in the first 3 weeks, a place that people will see and derive a certain degree of trust, hey Crystal, from arrival. They're arriving, they're seeing you guys in all your beautiful profile images and listings, and they see that we have solutions. They can search through those solutions and find what they're looking for. Where's the gap? Part of me wants to sort of scratch my head, because I've been doing this head scratching for a week. Bob might give us a little bit of help, but here's the bit that we have to partner up with. Okay, I'm creating the demand. You guys need to help me out by creating trust and security and social proof when people arrive. You don't need to. I'm not saying you must. But in order to succeed, I'd love you as our community to sort of help us out. It is a community, and that's the difference between us and a speaker bureau. The difference is that they can contact you directly and they can start a dialogue, and you've got a product or a series of products that demonstrate your capacity to do great things. And what appears to be happening, or will happen, is that they'll start a dialogue. This looks cool. Can you help with this particular area or this particular problem? For which you can potentially then raise another listing that responds to that and prices that appropriately. But it's a great shop window, right? So the social proof is what we're missing. This is what I'm asking you to help me with. On your listings, you will be able to enable people to respond to previous experiences they might have had with you directly, saying, you know, we had a talk with Crystal in February, March. We had a great experience and so forth. The public discussion is public, and the testimonials are there for you to use. The more actual sales that we generate, the higher your ranking and the higher your perspective and point of view. So if somebody's saying, I want a motivational speaker in Montana, we have one person, the only fantastic motivational speaker in Montana on our platform, Sherry Wynn, who is, you know, a short sort of answer to that particular question. If it's a motivational speaker in sports, with storytelling across the United States, I want to see sort of 6 to 10 kind of responses in terms of listings. Then people will literally not go no further with that kind of inquiry. So I'd like you to consider how great your imagery is. Images of these listings having happened. So for example, with Dan, we've done a few of these online events, Dan. And Victoria, what I'd ask you to do with Dan's listings is to use some of those images that we took of the full crowd. I'd like to see images of the events that you're talking about actually happening as part of that social proof. So of some of those that we've done before, we can put those in, and Victoria can help with those that we've done over the last 6 months. If you've got even the back of you addressing an audience, you delivering these things, it's a whole lot better than stock photography. The trust and security you get from images that you have that demonstrate that these things have occurred in text, in images, in social proof, are the missing piece of the puzzle for this week. So if you can help me out with that and help yourselves, it creates that extra glue, that community glue that we're looking for, that really will fire this up.
Robert, I have like tons of videos on my website that are testimonial. So like, to me, if I can get some of those videos, they're usually like, 15, 30 seconds. They're not very long, but that like versus, cause you know what, like somebody just writing something, that can be falsified easily, but videos cannot be. How can we get those videos onto my platform? That's what is social proof.
I think that's great. It's a great point. And so our platform currently auto lists or auto shows YouTube. So if you've got that in YouTube format, great. If not, Victoria can help you with that conversion. Anything that has a YouTube URL, our system will automatically pick it up and show it on your listing or on your profile. Okay. Annika.
Can you have more than one YouTube video?
You can have more than one YouTube video.
Good.
And so if you look at yours, for example, Annika, you've already got a couple of YouTube videos, I think, on your listing.
I have, no, here I have one from my course in Elevate, but I was thinking of putting up my TEDx.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, all of this stuff is just going to give us that advantage in social proof that we need. So, I'm going to pass over to Bob to talk about and try to give us a little bit more inspiration, enable us all to take a deep breath and step back a little bit from the challenges that we face. The fascinating thing I'll give you just sort of prior to, well, as I hand over, is this, we are living in 2022. We're living in a place where people are comfortable with these marketplaces. They're comfortable provided that they see the elements that they're used to seeing: reviews, star ratings, social proof, testimonials, videos, listings, great photography, plenty of really excellent descriptive text. And Victoria's helping, but what's important as we scale is that you guys really, really embrace that. And we get the dwell time from people who want to do business with us. Yes, John.
I've just put a thing in the chat. One of my customers is a guy called Dan Gable. I've just put his LinkedIn profile there. He's got a platform called Shout Out Social, and we might be able to do a deal for the entire group. I can talk to him. And what happens is that you get sent a link. So you send that out to your person that's doing the testimonial. You give them a bit of prep. They load a video onto their phone, load it straight into the system, and it formats it and puts it all in a nice native format. We use it all the time. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'd love to investigate that a little bit further. I think. Well, thank you, John. We also did some work investigating and developing Video Ask as well, which we've got some of those video elements to exploit a little bit further as we go. Bob, set the scene for us.
Sir, thank you. Thanks, guys. And Victoria, just as I'll need to be able to share my slides in a minute, so make sure I'm in the right place. It looks like I've got a share screen button, so
Sure.
that will work. Great.
Mhm.
So here's what inspired me to make this offer, and we'll spend about 30 minutes together, kind of talking this through, with me sharing some things that might make each one of our individual practices more effective, and then collectively impact positively on the community. Have you noticed this? An organization brings you in, you do a presentation, it's very well received from whatever your expertise domain happens to be. They are really excited. Maybe there's even the line that stands in front of you after a keynote that all want to chat with you, and you know how that is. They want to share their personal story or, in some way connect. But that if you're going to be entirely honest with yourself, or you've been doing this a long time, you realize that the likelihood that that organization is actually going to systematically implement what you were suggesting is low. How many have a gut sense of that, that happens, And so it's more than half of us. And we could think about what it is that we do and how we've all come together and why we're on Elevate initially and why we might be on Elevate going forward. In that, at one level, we all have to be commercially viable. We have to feed our families. We have to be able to retire someday and all those wonderful commercial things. But each one of us, and I am sure this is the case, does what we do because we have, for whatever reason in our historical past, a passion about the thing that it is that we do. We came to our expertise because we want to make a difference. Now, part of my history, from a work point of view, is I worked in the drug abuse field and set up drug abuse treatment and prevention programs, initially in New York State, initially here in my own local region, and then New York State, then United States, then United States and Canada. And as that practice evolved, oftentimes I was seen as a kind of global expert about this. I've spoken in many countries around the world about it. And I would go in and do these keynotes, and and they loved it, and it was just so exciting and blah, blah, blah. And then I would come home and debrief with my team or with my wife, and I'd say, she said, how it went. And I said, it was great. They were really happy to see me. There was the state of Wisconsin brought me back 3 times to do a keynote at the same conference, 3 years in a row. I changed content, but they wanted that keynote. But it didn't necessarily make the difference. There wasn't a systematic move to change culture. So when we look at the stuff we're doing around any one of our practice areas, each one of us wants to make that positive impact. And we all know, I'm going to be very blunt and very frank, we all know that the image that we present to the world, and we have to for commercial reasons, is that we're very successful at causing the changes that people bring us on to speak about. And in some cases, I have case examples where I have been very successful at making those changes. But honestly, in more cases than not, there is no systemic change. So how do you fix that? And that's how I ended up in the creativity field, where 30 years ago now, out of that frustration, I kept looking for methodologies that increase the likelihood that change sticks. And that's what I want to share with you a little bit. Somebody's got a secondary sound going on, so check that you're muted. So I'm going to share a screen now and kind of walk you through some things and see if I can provide some value that would be useful to you. So screen 2. So this is the typical meeting that we've all experienced these. And this is the meeting that often occurs after we leave from an organization where we've given a presentation. It's what we would call the conventional meeting. And you have some idea, and we oftentimes are the idea. We are the ones that are brought in with our idea, our expertise to fix an organization. And unless that idea is perfect inside that system, it's risky for anybody to suggest it. So what they really are doing when they're validating us is, well, this person speak well, do well, and be well received. But they're not oftentimes thinking, and will this be the inception of significant change in my organization? And this is the kickoff for that. So they evaluate the idea. It's always an attack or defend in the meeting. Well, here's what's not good about that. Happens in the strategic meeting, and that's usually the first thing that people speak. I talk about that more in the master class, which we all have access to for free. So as members of Elevate, and they implement or they don't implement. Now, there's a different way of doing meetings when those meetings are informed by creative process. So what happens?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we don't see any slides.
You don't?
No.
Oh, I'm sad that that's the case. Why? There's a share screen. I'm on the right screen, screen 2.
Let's give you
yeah.
He has access.
Yeah. Share screen, share.
Now, there you go.
Bingo. Sorry, gang. And thanks for interrupting and letting me know that that was the case. So this is the pattern that you would normally see. Maybe if I had had my bad habit and was looking at the screen instead of at you all, you would have realized, or I would have been told sooner. But so in the brainstorming meeting where they might do strategic thinking about implementing what it is that each one of us brings into the process, they're going to suggest an idea. They're going to do this a bunch of times. They're going to record that. They're going to stop when enough. They converge and they implement. They come into those meetings intentionally saying, how might we take what Coach Sherry Wynn taught us and bring it into the system versus let's just all go back to work, inspired by a good motivational speaker, right? Or how might we bring sound, somebody's got to mute. So how might we bring what we just learned from our diversity, equity, and inclusion expert that we brought in to do a presentation and then implement that in our system? And that's, frankly, where I think we fall down oftentimes as these speakers that come in and make a difference. And so what I would like to kind of expose you to and maybe tickle you into learning a little bit more about, because you can do this yourself or we can do it as a team at Elevate, is to think about using our expertise. You come in and do a presentation, and then you help people, or we help people, to figure out how can we implement this directly in our organization. And I've also noticed this over time, that if I tell them how to directly implement it in their organization, it still doesn't fly. They have to go through a process where they, let's say, invent their own way based upon their own culture, their own view of their organization about how it is that they're going to move this knowledge forward that we've given them. And so there's this creative process that I can't, in a short time that I have, I can't really develop a significant expertise in you in this, but I can tickle your fancy about it. And this is research-based. This is not something that some consultant company invented. This was articulated 60 years ago by observing how people solve problems. And then a field of research and development was built around this. There's actually a peer-reviewed scientific journal in my space called the Journal of Creative Behavior. There's an annual conference that's been going on for 60 years around this work. And the thing to notice about this is that almost always when they bring us in, they have a clear goal or wish, they think. Let's say it's to improve diversity and inclusion in our organization and overall equity, across the board in the way that we treat our employees, our vendors, and our suppliers. And so or a triple bottom line kind of thing. It could be anything. That's a clear goal wish. We are that next step. We are data for them. We are information that can go into the funnel that they could figure out, okay, this is what, so-and-so is telling us we should do. What's getting in the way of us doing that is the next step. And that's the challenges, the things that are getting in the way of us doing that. And that meeting oftentimes will not happen organically when you leave unless we figure out a way to cause that meeting to happen. And that, to my point of view, is a huge differentiator in any one of our practices where we cause change to occur, not because we gave a compelling presentation or offered. Heck, I spend 2 days in our Innovation for Results program with people, and they learn this stuff in great depth, but do they implement it? Not unless I do another step inside of that organization. So, and once they've clarified those challenges and they understand this is what, Stephanie says we should do, this is where we are, our desired future state is following somebody's advice, our current state is that we're not. What are the strategic pathways that we have to go through to get there? And those are the challenges that we have to solve, and they generate ideas to solve those challenges. They put those together into a project plan that they strengthen, and then they implement that thing. That's not generally what happens. So how might we cause that to occur more frequently? And one thing to understand about that creative process is that, and this is useful for any of us to understand, is that when we are solving a problem, most people think of we need ideas, right? They think we need ideas to solve a problem. Oftentimes they're getting ideas to solve the wrong problem. So in the creative process, that 6-step model that I showed you, this is what we would call divergence. Everybody put your hand up like this. Just kind of put your arms up, slide back, literally do it. Literally put your arms up in the air and think to yourself how you feel when you do this. What is the feeling? To steal from Brene Brown for a minute, what's the feeling we have? And having done this thousands of times, it's openness, it's largeness, it's impact, it's yay, it's from the mountaintops, it's power. Now, take your hands and bring them together right over the center of your chest or a little left of center over your heart. And this is precious. This is caring. This is bringing things in. This is making it real for me. This is love. And the convergence process is exactly that. What do you love out of what we've created together that we should do? And all we are when we come in with a keynote presentation or even a training where we don't figure out exactly how to move that forward is we're just divergence. We're just thoughts. And hey, some folks will, take up on that. But I'd like to increase our impact even more where we see that as part of our plan and more people will take up on that and make a difference. So the way we do our course, for instance, we call it Innovation for Results. Not just we're going to teach you design thinking, or we're going to teach you creative problem solving, or we're going to teach you, you're going to become a Scrum Master, Victoria, right? Or whatever. We're going to teach you how to do that. But what you would find with Agile, as another creative process example, is a lot of people get trained to do it, but the organization doesn't create the space for them to bring Agile into the day-to-day practices of the organization. And so if this is true, Emerson said it this way. He said, the purpose in life is not to be happy, but it's to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well, right? I'm going to stop the share for a minute. Stop the share. It sounds like stop the steal kind of craziness. So what could we do to make a difference down that particular pathway? And I'd like to encourage you to start thinking about how might we bring, or you bring, or I bring, it doesn't really matter to me. I want to see the impact that we potentially could have as a group potentiated. How could we bring real change to the organizations? If collectively Elevate is able to do that, and I like the way that we approached the construction company, you know, a bunch of good old boys who, you know, and that's going to be the culture of any construction company. I work in those trades, a bunch of good old boys that got in trouble for not being inclusive, for being inappropriate, for all of the things that motivated them to want to do that. How do we go beyond that to they're actually going to make real change? Now, there's a plan in place for that, but they're going to have to develop that real change solution themselves with some facilitation or their own facilitators or us facilitating it for them. And so here's the one gift. I'll put this in the chat right now. So that particular URL, it takes you to a page on the new and improved website where there's a couple of resources, really two resources that would be useful for you to kind of take a look at. One is what we call the process guide for leadership and governance meetings. And essentially, anytime one of us goes in and wants to have an impact, there needs to be a leadership and governance meeting that follows on what it is that we do. Otherwise, we're spitting in the wind. I killed my keynote practice on purpose. It was very lucrative when I was running in the drug abuse space. I killed it because I needed to go in and facilitate change. And so that, you know, it ended the keynote practice, but it grew a much larger business. It was very scary to do. I said, I'll do a keynote if, and then we ended up essentially became training and consultative work, and they did other work. And so that was very impactful. So the other set of tools that you'll see on that page are these tool cards, which are essentially divergence and convergence methodologies that can help you at different stages of the process. And that thing at the top on that page that you'll see, the cheat sheet, if you will, is hyperlinked to those tool cards. So different stages of the process utilize different tools more effectively or less effectively. And so it's useful to learn it that way. And in a moment, Victoria, I'm going to ask you to drop in the URL for the masterclass. You know, it's typical masterclass format, 10 minute-ish. I think I got 12, actually, 12 10-minute-ish kind of modules that you can go through that'll make this language more facile for you, and you could present it. And I'd love to facilitate stuff, but I got to tell you that if you have some basic facilitation chops and you pick up on some of this stuff, you can make that impact yourself. So, you know, you want to learn to do that kind of stuff more. I'll help you, but there's lots of ways to get at it. So I want us to be more facile with this particular aspect. I get incredibly frustrated when I see such an incredibly skilled and gifted group of people that Robert has brought together. And I see us not having the impact that we could. And I want that to be different. I have this vision, and it's an absolute pipe dream vision, but the Creative Problem Solving Institute, as I said, we call it CPSI, CPSI. Very old, very mature, very well-developed conference. Of course, it's taken a hit like any face-to-face conference did during COVID. The conference is happening in June this year, and it's will be the first one I'm going to miss ever, because I've got other commitments I have to do in June. But I have this idea that at some point in the not too distant future, we do a conference that's a mix of Elevate professionals and creative problem solving professionals. And in that conference, it's run as an open space process where whatever it is, our particular expertise. So Annika wants to help people that want to bring better stress management into their workplace. And a group of people come into the room as an open space, say, yeah, I'd like to work with Annika to think that through. Annika's the expert. And there's a creative problem solving facilitator in the room too. Annika does some base teaching, and then the rest of the group uses their collective brains and their own expertise to think about how could we make a positive difference in stress management skills or stress management culture inside of our organization. And whatever it is that is our expertise, we're matching up creative problem solving facilitators and those of us that have a care around whatever the social issue or the skill set issue is that we want to have. Wouldn't that be wonderful? You know?
Great.
Yeah.
You were supposed to give us a link.
It should be in the chat.
No, it's not.
I hit return. Wonder why it's not.
Did you send it
Zoom
to
is
everyone?
behaving crazy to me this morning for some reason.
Annika's
Yeah,
the
so-
link police. She'll always point it out.
Yeah, there it is. Got to hit enter,
Thank
Bob.
you.
That was operator error, not Zoom. So here's the encouragement, is take the masterclass. Damn it, it's free. It's well produced. I sing my heart out on that masterclass in terms of trying to make an impact for anybody that would take it. I don't literally sing, or maybe I actually do. But so that's step one. Take a look at the stuff that's free for you to access on our website. You may have to put your damn email address in there. I already have it, so don't worry about it. You're not giving anything away, right? So and we're not going to market to you guys, right? You might get our newsletter every once in a while, but that's it. And then as we do our offers to those organizations that Robert finds, let's think about that step next. Now that's happening organically in the way that we're doing the construction company in Boston, but it's not going to happen organically unless we're intentional about it all the time. So let's do those next steps so that we can have those impacts. And when, quite frankly, you are out there doing your thing, outside of Elevate, doing the thing you've already done, pick up some of these skills so that you can leave something behind after the fact. And I'll tell you, you can get at very complex challenges with this. Remember in the US, during the Clinton administration, there was an intention to cause an improvement in the movement from people onto the dole, onto welfare, and then off of welfare. So Clinton said, you're not going to get your money, states, from the federal government unless you come up with a plan to move people off of welfare, and I need to see that plan. That's what the Fed said under Clinton. So every state had to do a plan. We facilitated many of those plans. Under Bush, when the pandemic for influenza was our concern, he got in a yank about that and decided that he wanted to fund up pandemic planning. We facilitated that plan using this process. So really complex stuff can be done, but really simple things too. You know, when Johnson & Johnson wanted to improve their Band-Aid franchise, we facilitated the process whereby, who would have thought, they hadn't thought of this before, but putting Neosporin right on the pad of the Band-Aid before they sell it. Duh, because of those two products. So you can do really mundane things and really, you know, shake the world kinds of things with this. 30 minutes, you know, it's like, my God, what to do with that? All right, so that's it. And one of the things that we could do that it can impact that, and Robert, you maybe should speak to this, and then I'll open it up for any questions in the short time that we have. Robert, you floated the idea that they could go to the page, you know, the new page on the new platform, that's mine. And my ask is, say it again, Robert. So explain that.
We've all done it actually while you've been talking. So let me I'll summarize just quickly. So just as thank you very much for your insight, and it's set me off on a number of thoughts, which I'll share with you in just a second. First of all, Victoria's published Bob's masterclass link. Effectively, as a Elevate member, you have 100% discount. It's completely free. Just make sure you use the promo code Bob Elevate 2022 and enjoy it. Please write a review. after you've used it. And of course, Bob's own link, newandimproved.com, is there as well. So the couple of sort of points that I would like to make is that absolutely, once we have a dialogue with enterprise, we want to be able to take them through suggestions of how they would further the impact of what we are delivering them initially. And I think what you've just dealt out in terms of the tools and the possibilities there are magnificent. Thank you. The initial capturing of conversations is what I'll open up for you guys to sort of discuss a little bit. Is with enterprise, we are having conversations every day. We're having inbound inquiries every day. And just to reiterate, what people want to see is great listings, great images of you doing and delivering listings rather than just stock imagery. And what I will begin to do with various tools that we're beginning to implement in the coming week, such as some software that we're working on in terms of how we can actually stimulate chat, is really going to start asking questions. And I wonder what Bob thinks of this and what you think of this. Is just of those organizations that you already have a relationship with. If you have the opportunity to do this in the next week or so, reach back with them, ask and refresh your relationship with them, and simply ask what their pain points are today. Generally, not related to you. They'll remember you because you will have delivered a solution of some sort or another within the last 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. But reaching back with them and just saying, you know, what I'm just reassessing my role here as speaker and expert. What are the pain points that you're experiencing right now? And if those pain points are some things that you can address, then of course you can point them towards your Elevate listings. If they're pain points that your colleagues here at Elevate can address, which are complementary to your own, then it will be great for you guys to simply say, hey, I know a lady or a gentleman who have solutions that you might immediately want. So that multiplier effect amongst 100 of you is quite significant. And to Bob's point, I think that echoes the impact as a community. I think we all want to do good work. And I think part of that follow through that Bob was talking about in terms of having that work implemented is part of the equation. The other part of the equation is that as a network, we're vastly stronger than the sum of our parts. So if you have that opportunity to refresh, a lot of people want an opportunity for a contact. And I certainly encourage you to say, hey, I'm just evaluating here what's up in 2022. What are the pain points you're experiencing and how might I help you solve them? And I can vouch for you that already with 130 different approaches to answering questions that we already have 1 or 2 people that can do that for you. Any more questions on Bob's talk?
So let's chat. Any questions? Put a hand up. I'll do that. We'll do it that way, you know, versus the software hands. I like real human hands.
Anyone else who'd like to?
Go ahead, Sherry.
Sherry Wynn's got one. Go on.
Yeah, I watched Bob's masterclass, loved it, shared it with a couple of people, Bob. And I would just say that if you haven't watched it, it's worth it. Like, he's great. He's very masterful at how he explains things. I took notes the first time, used it a little bit, need to go back and rewatch it because it's worth it. You know, I'm always looking for tools that create a better, you know, create a better opportunity for me to be better at what I do. And that's what Bob does. Like I say, it's masterful. So if you haven't watched it, I encourage everybody just to get on and watch it. It's wonderful.
And I think I'd echo that with also just wanting to say that that staircase, Bob, that you suggested that is kind of the implementation phase after the speaking phase. I'd suggest that that would be appropriate for all of you with any of the encounters that you currently enjoy. So all of the speaking work or workshopping or coaching, I'm sure that there is more there. The conversations I've had, quite complex and difficult conversations I've had over the last week or so with sales kind of approaches to consultative sales and so forth. I've always come back to this. You already have customers that are wanting to buy from you within your pipe, and to be able to revisit those and ask them specific questions. A really, really great kind of key point that reinforces what Bob said last week was the market leads the marketing. So if you're asking that question and they say, hey, you know what, I just cannot address internal issues that are related to sensitive bullying, squabbling, gender imbalance, diversity issues, whatever it might be, it's really important for us to be able to sort of go back and reflect that back to them and say, you know, we have that experience and we have that potential to offer a solution. If the market reflects the marketing does not lead the market. You can't just guess what people want. So if you guys have got the opportunity to ask the questions, reflect the answers back in the offer, and I'm sure it will work well for you. Any
Other
more
questions? Yep. Put a hand up if there are any. Boom, boom, boom.
There are
Good.
a lot of people
Yeah, that's done.
doing addressing some of their profile issues and other bits as we go. I really appreciate you doing that. Some of their profile issues and other bits.
Oh, we got an echo from someone. So let me kind of sign it off, my piece with this in terms of it. First off, there's an opportunity for Elevate that Robert and I have an agreement about, and that's that if there's a flagship course that we do called Innovation for Results. You saw the logo for that. But if any of the clients that you currently are working with as part of this, either independently or as part of Elevate, and any Elevate person brings me into that client to do a 2-day training, initially training, that half of that money is going back to Elevate, right? So if you, and it's part of, you know, me helping Robert with, you know, funding for marketing and that kind of thing, margin on that. And these are $17,000, 24-person kind of 2-day trainings. So it's a nice chunk back to Elevate. So if you had a situation where it would be useful for your intention for that organization that you're working with, and we do that training, you're in that training, and we always work on real issues as part of that training, real stuff. You know, there's one company that's an 800% ROI. They've made north of $40 billion making things, creating things during the training, either saving or whatever. So let's imagine that you're doing DEI work and the organization says, you know, we really would like to implement more of this, but we've got to work on it. Well, then let's do a training / creative process where you're in the training, you're getting that training, helping me with as being a content expertise. And then we move that organization forward. Half of those first 2 are going back to Elevate. So, and you get free training. So, you know, that's the way it would work. And that's an opportunity for any of us, would also help the Elevate bottom line. So that's out there. And I'm dropping a new URL in, and that's, if you want to learn more about what that is, just go look at the page and look at how we do it. There's different ways that we use this creative process. So with that, I'm going to turn it right back over now to Victoria and Robert to do whatever needs to be done. So.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much, Bob. So I want to thank, that was really great and impactful. Anybody else that would like a 15-minute, 30-minute slot on a Friday to just let me know. And obviously it will make a difference to your own page and feedback. And we'll make sure that, that it's reflected in that too. Thank you, Sloan Miller, for your fabulous new adjustments to your listings and profile. Thank you, Mark Oliver in Australia, who will be listening on Catch Up, no doubt. Mindy Gibbons-Klein, Deborah Mittelman, John Perrin, Bettina Spencer, and many more who have self-generated profiles. They're all looking really great. And the more diversity that we show, the more really elite solutions that we show and we reflect. I think we're solving that specific problem that we need to solve, which is making sure that people feel that they need look no further when they come to Elevate. So I think that's a real milestone that we've reached and passed. And I thank you all for that. Any more questions? And we are going to wrap up. Anything else that we need? Any housekeeping issues? Just let me know.
Bob, Robert, yeah. I had a question. Are you going to go give an update about the RFP for the diversity opportunity?
Oh, that's a great point. So put in context that we are getting inbound inquiries every day, and what people are doing is evaluating your listings, on merit, on the basis of how they look on the page. So within that, I have not heard back from the company in question, having I've just literally hit my desk about 3 or 4 hours ago. And that particular opportunity is still very much live, and I should be chasing them up early next week. Any of you guys who want specifically to be seen as, wanting to put yourself forward for that, you're putting yourself forward for everything that's coming through. So I would make sure that everything is on the page, on the listings and on your profiles. I get your point, Alice, and I'll give you some feedback, all of us some feedback on Friday next week of where we're at. What I'm looking for enterprise solutions is, and that's what we're making a big effort for, is multiples of individual speaking solutions. So for $1 billion organization, we're looking to close 20, 30, 40 plus individual solutions that might be paying $2,500 to $5,000 an hour. Anything else? Happy Friday. It's uncharacteristically warm in the United Kingdom, so I'm going to try and hydrate and get off and enjoy the weekend. Please enjoy your weekend. Take it to heart in terms of what Bob was talking about, and see if you can drill down into those lists that you already have for your own benefit. Ask a refresh question. See if we can kind of get the temperature a little bit about what people are asking about. Is it recession-led? Is it diversity still part of the primary concern that people are having? Are there still motivational leadership issues? Is the Great Resignation still a major factor? Are there hardcore kind of sales and management issues and so on people need? And certainly share with me any of those opportunities that you can, and we'll see if we can help you and support you in any way we can.
Sloan made a good point in the chat. Is it possible for us to select multiple topics when we are posting our listings?
It's a really good point. At the moment, it's a topic which requires an individual listing. So we're going to have a look at the way that we program that in, so that you can select if it's a workshop that it has, for example, a leadership and a diversity emphasis. At the moment, we can duplicate those so that they appear in both of those categories. We're running Google Ads all the time. So every time that you guys put a listing together that is complete and all done, we're going to be running those keywords in our Google Ads as well. So have a good think about those titles and listing details. Anything else, everybody?
Yeah, I'm just going to say that I'm on next week on Wednesday. I'm in New York City. I'm going to meet with Frank.
Oh, wonderful. Great. So maybe will we see you together next week?
On the Friday? No, I'm not coming on the Friday on this call.
Okay. Well, good luck next week. I hope you enjoy your trip.
I will.
And one quick one, Victoria sent me a note that folks are asking for the slides. This is a huge deck. It's huge. It's got videos and all that. All of the stuff that's on the slides that I used to shoot the few is it's in that stuff I pointed to you early on, the tool cards, the cheat sheet. So the creative process, all that stuff, it's all right there. And
it's also being recorded.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to see all that. Yeah.
It's also going to be recorded. We'll see if we can talk him into sharing a couple of those images into Bob's listing as well. Great, guys. Anything else? Alrighty. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you next week. Here's some more and more success as we go, more business, and we'll get some more good news next week, I hope.